Well, today is your chemistry class for solution and suspension. So the day is Friday, the date is 11th of December. Okay, now let's start. So today we are starting chapter number 7. Chapter's name is solution and suspension. So we will first talk about solution. Okay, so what actually is a solution? I'm writing it here. It is a homogeneous mixture of solute and solvent. Okay, now what do you mean by solute and solvent? So what actually is solute? Okay, these solute and solvent, they both are the part of a solution. Okay, so solution comprised of both solute and solvent. So what is solvent? I'm mentioning it here. So solute is what? Something in less lesser content is solute, and something in greater content is solvent. For example, let's consider an example here. I am considering a jar full of water. Okay. Now, what if I add 2 or 3 spoons of table salt here? I have sprinkled 2 or 3 spoons of table salt. Now, what if I stir it? We will have a solution of salt and water. Okay. So here in this case, salt is in lesser content and water is in greater content. So salt is solute and water is solvent. I am repeating it again. That I have a jar full of water. I have sprinkled some salt here. And this jar is full of water. Okay. Now water is in greater content, so water is solvent, and salt is in lesser content, so salt is solute. So a solution is always comprised of solute and solvent. So solute and solvent together make a solution. Okay, and it's a homogeneous mixture. It simply means that after I stir them, you will not be able to differentiate between where is salt and where is water. Okay, they will together be a homogeneous mixture. Okay, so solution is what? A homogeneous mixture of solute and solvent. It means that in solution we have two components: solute, which is in lesser constant. Here in this case, solute is salt, and solvent is water, because water is in greater content. Okay, so let's move to suspension. What is suspension? It is opposite of solution. Solution was homogeneous mixture of 2 or more substances. Now it is a heterogeneous mixture. Heterogeneous mixture of 2 or more substances. Okay. Now here let's consider an example for suspension. Previously I have considered an example of salt water as an example of solution. Now here for suspension I am considering here again a jar full of water, but this time I am not sprinkling salt here. I am sprinkling sand here. Okay, so this time here we have sand. Now what if I put sand here in a jar full of water? Definitely that sand will not dissolve in water, so eventually we will have sand particles here at the bottom of the jar. Okay, so all the sand particles will settle down. It will not dissolve in water. So that is suspension for you. It is a heterogeneous mixture. It simply means that after you mix sand and water, you will be able to differentiate between them. Okay, you know here there is sand and there is water. Okay, but in case of solution, you are not able to differentiate between salt and water. Okay, so that was a homogeneous mixture of solution, and here in this case, this is the heterogeneous mixture of suspension. Okay, so here sand is solute and water is solvent, but this time here sand is not mixing with water, it's not dissolving in water. So this is suspension for you. It is a heterogeneous mixture. So okay, so our next topic is types of solution. Okay, so type number 1 for solution is unsaturated solution. Type number 2 is saturated solution, and type number 3 is supersaturated solution. Okay, so let's first consider the first type, unsaturated solution. Okay, so what actually is unsaturated solution? I'm writing it here. A solution, it is a solution having more capacity to dissolve solute. Okay, for example, here for the sake of your understanding, I'm mentioning an example here, that here again we have a jar full of water. Okay, I'm sprinkling some salt here. There is salt, and that is water. Okay, now I have sprinkled 2 or 3 times here. Okay, so here it means that this water has more capacity to dissolve salt. Okay, so this type of solution is called unsaturated solution. A solution is unsaturated if it has more capacity to dissolve solute. Solute can be anything, salt or sugar or any other solute. Okay, so a solution is said to be unsaturated only if it has more capacity to dissolve solute. Okay, now let's move to type number 2, that is saturated solution. Okay, now let's discuss about saturated solution. It's similar to that of unsaturated one. So it is a solution that do not have more capacity to dissolve solute. In it. Okay, now again for the sake of your understanding, I'm mentioning here an example of a jar full of water. One more time, but this time I have sprinkled salt in much greater extent than I have added previously. Okay, so I have added salt a couple of more times than I have sprinkled previously. So there is a greater amount of salt here sprinkled in this jar of water. Okay, now after this, after sprinkling some salt in this jar of water, I will stir it. Okay, now it will dissolve, this water will dissolve this salt to some limited content. Okay, after this content, if I keep sprinkling salt here, it will stop dissolving the salt. If I keep sprinkling salt here in this water, a time will come when this water will stop dissolving it. So at that time, that solution which is not able to dissolve more salt in it, solution which is not able to dissolve further more salt in it, is called saturated solution. Okay, previously I have told you about unsaturated solution. Unsaturated solution have more capacity to dissolve salt. It simply means that you may add more salt in an unsaturated solution, but here in the case of saturated solution, it will not dissolve further more salt. Okay, so we are considering type number 3 here for solution. So that is supersaturated solution. Now that is a solution. Okay, that is a solution having dissolved solute more than its capacity. So a solution having dissolved solute more than its capacity is a supersaturated solution. Okay, here again I am mentioning an example for supersaturated solution. Okay. Here previously, in case of unsaturated solution, I have added some salt here. It successfully dissolved that salt. So, and it had more capacity to dissolve further more salt. So that was said to be unsaturated solution. And but what if I add more and more salt in it? It will stop dissolving the salt, and it came to be known as saturated solution. Now, what about supersaturated one? It simply means a solution having dissolved solute more than its capacity. How is it possible? Okay. Now here I have added too much salt here in this jar full of water. A time will come when it stops dissolving this salt. Okay. So how will it dissolve more salt than its capacity? Now for this purpose you have to heat it well. If you heat it, it will start dissolving more solute than its capacity. Okay. So how does a solution become supersaturated? You simply have to heat it. Okay, heat it well, and then it's up to you that how much solute you are going to add in it. If you heat it, it will dissolve more solute than its capacity. Okay. So this sort of solution is supersaturated solution. So now you simply have to read all the topics which we have covered in today's lecture. Okay, you simply have to read them, and then it's your homework that you have to write these definitions, these differences into your fair copy. Okay, make title of chapter number 7, solution suspension, then write whatever you have understood here in this lecture, the differences between solution suspension, the definitions, and the types of solution. Okay, thank you. Allah Hafiz.